Welcome to the SEC Unfiltered, folks. I'm your host, Dave Shumate, lead college basketball analyst here at the SEC Unfiltered channel, reacting to all of Tuesday night's February 25th action, folks. Hey, we had a big upset. We also had, we had a couple blowouts. I think LSU was fighting tooth and nail with Tennessee. Alabama, that was the ceiling I've been telling folks about. If you've been wondering what I've been talking about, it's the best game they played all year, especially the first half. That's the ceiling of the Crimson Tide. And then Missouri, just keep getting it done at home at Mizzou Arena. Got South Carolina in a really good spot. Again, South Carolina, not a great team. Missouri's obviously the better team. It's not really the spot it was in. South Carolina coming off their first win in league play, heading to Mizzou Arena. Missouri just took one on the chin against Arkansas on Saturday. So it's a good bounce-back spot for Dennis Gates and his team. So not a shocker there, guys. But again, guys, this reaction is brought to you by our title sponsor, FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet, guys. Let's get right into it. Let me get it on here. Right here, guys, Florida dropping one on the road against Georgia. Georgia gets the 88-83 win over the Gators. Georgia came out firing. They were up to the biggest lead they had was up to 26 at one point. Silas Demery was unconscious early. They were up 51-35 at half, and it didn't even feel that close. It felt like right out of the gate, Georgia kind of dominated this game, and then you had the big comeback in the second half. Florida outscoring Georgia by 11, 48-37 in the second half there. Florida makes a run, goes up 3, and Georgia comes back. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I think Georgia's ability to stay calm and stay composed in that situation. Think about it, guys. You just blew a 26-point lead in kind of a make-or-break game here. Now they have 5 wins, but say you lose that, you're at 4. You got to go win your next 3 in a row just to be in the conversation of the NCAA tournament. You finish it off, get a massive win, biggest win of the season. He's a third-ranked team in the conference, a legit Final Four team, or third-ranked team in the country, a potential obvious Final Four team. First time Mike White has beat his former boss, former team, since he's been in Athens with the Georgia Bulldogs. But, man, massive win. Tip of the cap to Todd Golden and Florida. They didn't quit. They kept coming back. You could tell the surge was coming. I was texting somebody. It's like, Florida's got another run or two in them. Too many offensive weapons, and like Will Richard, Walter Clayton. That front court is loaded right now. But I said, outside of the Elijah Martin injury, the thing that held me up, Chris Phillips asked me this, what would be your hesitation about Florida winning the whole thing? It would be their defense at times. I know the numbers don't back that up at times. But you saw in the first half, Georgia put up a 51 spot, half a hundo. That can't happen in an NCAA tournament. I know that's obvious, but I think Florida has that in there at times. I think that ceiling is lower. I always talk about Auburn has the highest ceiling, and I think it's a big gap after that, especially in the SEC and obviously the country. I think Florida's on the opposite end of that spectrum. Their floor is a lot worse than some of the other true national title contenders. And Florida losing tonight does not change my opinion. They are truly a national title contender when they're playing well, and certainly when they're hitting their ceiling. But Georgia shot 53.8% from the field, 55% from beyond the arc on the 20. What were they? A 10 for 18 from beyond the arc. Florida 40% from the field, 34% from beyond the arc. Florida actually took 2 more free throws. Florida was +2 in the rebounding margin there. Turnovers, Georgia had 17 at home. Florida 11. With the pace Florida and Todd Golden play, that's not terrible. 17 for Georgia. Points off turnovers for Florida. This was kind of towards the end, the last 10 minutes of the game. 29, looking at it right now, 29 points Florida got off turnovers, folks. That's how they got back in this thing, forcing turnovers. 17. Circle that number if you want to know why Florida got back into this one, folks. If you want to know, again, biggest lead Georgia had was 26. Sorry, Florida's biggest lead was 2. They got it down to 2 late in the game. But, man, what a big comeback for Florida. And if you're Georgia, you held on and got a massive win from that perspective. For Georgia, Silas Demery, I told you he was unconscious early. 21 points, 7 for 12 from the field, 4 for 6 from beyond the arc. Asa Newell getting more comfortable. The young cat flexed his muscles a little bit against Janai Broome last Saturday. I thought Georgia had a really good plan against Auburn. He carried that over. 15 points, 4-9 shooting, 2 for 6 from beyond the arc. They got 14 from Tyron Lawrence off the bench. I think that was the story for the Bulldogs. Again, phenomenal shooting night. For Florida, just a little too late. You can't get in a hole like that against anyone, especially on the road in the SEC, especially against a team. You got to come in ready to play. A team of Georgia's backed like a wounded dog, no pun, but backed into a corner. They needed a big win. Mike White was due to beat his old team. It's an interesting game. Will Richard, 30 points tonight. Walter Clayton, 18. Not much from the Gators off the bench outside of Alex Condon. Denzel Aberdeen didn't produce, but he was 0 for 2. Only 2 shots tonight, 0 points. He'd been playing a little better for them recently. They need a little bit more out of him. Still fine with Florida. I'm still fine with Florida. Love what they have. Ceiling's really high. It's as high as anyone's. Floor at times can be real scary. Georgia, like I mentioned, 17-11 now, 5-10. I think you have to win 2 more games. I think you have to win 2 more games. 2 more conference games. They're at 5. You got to get to 7, 8. If they won out, they're a lock in. But they needed this tonight. Just in general, if they'd have lost, I think it would have really hurt them. But you blew a 26-point lead at home and you lost. That's a killer. I mean, I don't have to tell you folks that. But what is next on the horizon for Georgia? I don't think they're in the NCAA tournament yet. I think they're kind of in that first 4 kind of realm now. They put themselves in that conversation. They were the next 4 out going into this, I do believe. I think they moved up into that category. They still have some work to do. This loss or this win alone does not put them in, folks. Again, Georgia fans, be fired up. Be excited you held on, but still some work to do. At Texas on Saturday will be a massive one. Again, it's a team fighting for the NCAA tournament lives themselves in the same conference as you. Massive opportunity, not only for Georgia, but for Texas. At South Carolina, if you're an NCAA tournament team, you win that game. I know Colonial Life has been tough for some teams this year. They haven't got wins, South Carolina, but they've taken Auburn down to the wire, Florida, Mississippi State, all of them, then Vanderbilt at home. It could come down to that. So they got to get 2 out of these last 3, I think, with 1 being at home and 2 of them on the road. But I think both road games very winnable at Texas and at South Carolina as well. So big win for Georgia tonight. For the Gators, go to the schedule here for Florida. For the Gators, what is next? They will come back home and host Texas A&M. I believe College Game Day is there, but that'll be a night tip, 7:30 p.m. on the SEC Network at Alabama and then Ole Miss. So a tougher stretch for Florida at the end of the year, where Florida's fighting for that number 1 seed, one of those number 1 seeds. I think we got 2 number 1 seeds locked up. I think Auburn and Duke, certainly. Then I think you got Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, and Houston. And I think Houston would be ahead of Tennessee. But I think those 4 teams fighting for 2 of the last 4 number 1 seeds. I think you got 2 locked in. You have 4 teams, 3 coming from the SEC fighting for those last 2 spots. Florida, obviously, that hurts them tonight. Again, that takes they're back in the standings. Alabama's in sole possession of second place now. Florida at 3rd. Big game for them, though. They got to flush it. Texas A&M is going to be coming in, trying to get a win in the O-Dome as well. So they got to flush it. Tough 3-game stretch. Then a week from tomorrow, I believe they're in they'll be in Tuscaloosa fighting for that. That'll be a battle for second place, I think. Not officially. I think Auburn's got the league wrapped up. But then at home versus Ole Miss, it's a Chris Beard-led team. So not disappointing for Florida. They can still get a 1 seed, I think, because they still play Alabama. That Auburn win's always going to be there for them. But if you don't get a 1 seed, that's the one you could circle back on. Again, I think 2 things can be true at once from that perspective. Which game we going to now? Well, let's go to Tuscaloosa. Let's go to Tuscaloosa. The Crimson Tide getting a big, dominant win over Mississippi State. Again, they get the season sweep over Mississippi State, where Alabama won a couple of weeks ago and Starkville won that down to the wire win. But Bama gets the 111-73 win. Again, this is what we're accustomed to seeing at times to Alabama at home. They usually, in tornadoes, they've had these 1 or 2 games at home where they shoot unconscious from the field, score over 100, beat someone by close to 40. This was it. 111-73. Bama improves to 23-5, 12-3. Mississippi State drops to 19-9, 7-8. Still very comfortably in the NCAA tournament. This was Alabama's ceiling, folks. This is the one I talk about. This is Alabama's ceiling. It's as good as anybody. Mississippi State, again, the defense hasn't been as good as it's been in the past 2 years under Chris Jans. Let's call a spade a spade. But 111 on a Chris Jans-led team is impressive enough. Alabama shoots 52.1% from the field, 48.9% from beyond the arc. Mississippi State, 38.4% from the field, 20% from the other. A lot of shots were falling, especially for Josh Hubbard. He ended up with 21, but he's a very quiet. The game was out of reach when he started putting a little foot to pedal to the metal early in the first half. LeBaron File and Chris Youngblood were doing a really good job on him defensively. Bama +1 in the rebounding margin, Turnovers, 14 for Mississippi State, 11 for Alabama. That was good for Bama. I mean, good defensively tonight. Didn't turn the basketball over. Those are two things that concern me at times. They shot the ball well. This was their best overall game. I mean, largest lead. They got it up to 38. Mississippi State, I think, hit the opening bucket of the game. Yeah, 3-0, and that was it. But Bama doubling up Mississippi State's assists. Bama had 28. Was Mississippi State 14. Again, all the way, all around a phenomenal game from Alabama. You really can't say much more. I mean, Mississippi State, they just walked into a buzzsaw. But you know it's why Chris Jans is what now? 0-6 against that. Or no, 0-7 because they played twice in 2023. The Brandon Miller Alabama team, they played in the SEC tournament. But yeah, 0-7 against this Alabama in his career. So it was just kind of wild because they play twice every year. But for Alabama, again, Mark Sears looking more comfortable, 21 points. Chris Youngblood, 27 points, 7 for 11 beyond the arc. He was on fire the first time they played him. So, I mean, if Chris Youngblood would be right there with Janai Baroum as a potential – and Cooper Flagg is a potential National Player of the Year if he played Mississippi State every game. I'm being facetious, folks. But he likes playing Mississippi State. There's no doubt about it. I think Clifford Amore starting to come in his own a little bit, 8 points, 8 rebounds. Grant Nelson looks a little sluggish. I think he has some kind of foot issue, if I'm being honest, from what I've heard. A little banged up. He's playing on it, 6 points, 7 boards. They need him at his best, I think, to ultimately reach their ultimate goal. Baron Philon, 10 points, 1 steal, 5 assists. Mark Sears, like I said, looking more comfortable. Mo Diabate had 8 boards in the first half. Finished up with 3 in the second half for a total of 11. He just does Mo Diabate things. 13 points, Raiden Holloway. He kind of hit it on. I mean, Alabama just played well. I mean, 52% from the field, 48% from behind the arc, only 11 turnovers in a Nate Oates system where you score 111, you'll take 11 turnovers, 28 assists. Again, best game across the board. Certainly, the very least, the best first half they played all year. Give them credit. Had a great game plan. They weren't letting Josh Howard go off on them again. So, Alabama, big winner tonight. Florida, kind of the loser sitting there because those two teams, I think, are battling for those last 2 number 1 spots. Like I mentioned, like Auburn, Duke have them locked up. Then I think you got Alabama, Florida, Houston, and Tennessee. Those 4 teams battling for those last 2 number 1 seeds. And then Houston got a big road win at Texas Tech last night. So that's something to monitor if you're if you're a fan of Alabama, Florida, Tennessee. You got to monitor what Houston's doing. I think that's the other foe. But what's next for the Crimson Tide of NATOs? They take the show on the road to the most challenging, probably 3-game stretch in basketball this week, in college basketball, or this year. I don't know if there would even be a close second to it. This is the most challenging 3-game stretch of the basketball season. At Tennessee, Florida at home, at Auburn. Again, we've talked about the 7-game stretch going to the first game at Auburn where they lost, and they got rocked against Missouri this time last week, and they've got the train back on the track a little bit. It was never off, but you had to go win these next 2 at home. They beat Kentucky, beat Mississippi State. Now, if they need to split Tennessee and Florida, and at that point, when they go to Auburn, I mean, it is what I think Auburn's going to have the league wrapped up at that point. Really just playing for pride there a little bit. Maybe, I mean, if Alabama were to go win at Auburn, and they split the Tennessee-Florida games, I mean, that would dang near clinch a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. You wouldn't be ahead of Auburn, obviously, but Florida's got that win too. So, I mean, that would be big. But Alabama with some opportunities down the stretch. It's going to be hell. It's going to be tough. At Tennessee, Tennessee's beaten them 3 times in a row. It's in Knoxville. Florida at home. Again, we know Florida's ceiling with their floor. I'm sure against Alabama, potential 1 seed on the line, they're going to bring their best. And obviously at Auburn, Auburn's going to want to finish off that season sweep. I heard Bruce Pearl, I think, mention it on the show the other day. He didn't think the mission was complete this year unless they swept Alabama. So Auburn's going to be ready for that one as well. What is next for our friends over in Starkville? Chris Jans and the boys. 2 tough back-to-back losses on the road at Oklahoma. That's the one you could be disappointed. Alabama just played their best, would have beat anyone tonight, I think. But they host LSU at home, then host Texas, and then at Arkansas. So a very winnable stretch. Could go 3-0. You really want to get to 2-2. You really want to get to 2-2 if you're a Mississippi State fan, because they're 7 or 8. 2-1. 2-1 in your final 3. But you could get 3-0 because you get 2 of those 3 at home. If you're Mississippi State, you get 2-1, you finish 9-9, and you finish your last 3 off, you finish 10-8. That's a phenomenal season. Either way, good season. Chris Jan's going to be taking Mississippi State to their 3rd straight NCAA tournament in his first 3 years. Alabama, the show moves on. Really, the goal now is to keep fighting for one of those last 2 number 1 seeds. I think that's the goal, and it starts on Saturday with a big one against Tennessee, a team you're fighting for a number 1 seed for. I think they're in that 4 spot, Tennessee. Yeah, I mean, I think it's Alabama, probably Houston right now after Florida loses their night, Florida and Tennessee, if I really had to rank the 1 seeds right now. I think it would be Alabama and Houston would get it if the tournament ended tonight, but it doesn't. A lot of opportunities. Tennessee plays Alabama. Alabama and Florida play. So a lot of opportunities there for both teams from that perspective. Let's go look at the comments. Big Pat, baby. Dave knows basketball. Appreciate you, Pat. JPat86. 5-9 Georgia team beats Florida, but they will stay at 3. Don't understand that one. Big Pat, Dave, the refs kept UGA in the game against Georgia. Maybe a little bit of that, but you got to give Georgia some credit. Tennessee got in a hole against Florida earlier and never tried to climb back out, and all that trash talk commenced. Then beat them late and nothing in the media. Appreciate you listening, J-Pat. J-Pat, why does media dislike Tennessee so much? Was it the fans not okay with the Greg Schiano hire talk? They didn't want to talk a coach associated well. Why, Dave? Why is Houston ahead? I just think they're going to give Houston. If Houston wins the Big 12, I think they're going to give them a 1 seed. I just do. I think Tennessee will go. I think Houston's about to wrap up the 1 seed. I'd be shocked. I don't think the NCAA tournament committee is not going to give 3 1 seeds to the SEC. They're not. They're not going to give it to Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee. They're not going to give it to Auburn, Florida, Tennessee. They're just not. They're looking for a reason. And to be fair, I think Houston's giving them a reason. If you watch Houston, there's a impressive win. I know Texas Tech was down a couple guys last night, but it was at Texas Tech. Pat Mahomes was in the house. I'm just kidding. But no, Houston, if they get a 1 seed, they earned it. Everybody thought Kansas ran the Big 12, and they did for a year, but first 2 years Houston's been in. I know nothing last year had nothing to do with this year, but they've won the Big 12 in back-to-back years. I think Kelvin Sampson and them have done enough. That's the second best league. I think you should get a 1 seed if you win it. So that I think that's why. Moving on to the next game of the night. Let's go. Speaking of the Vols, let's go talk a little Vols. Let's go talk a little Tennessee basketball here, folks. Vols, I guess you could term it hanging on. I never really thought they were going to lose this game, but you never really felt like it was ever real comfortable either. But Tennessee gets a 65-59 win. Was it pretty? No. Tennessee was up 3 at half, but it kind of felt Tennessee should have been up 8-10 at half, but they were only up a possession. They were up 26-23. Then they only outscored LSU by the same amount in the second half, 39-36. So that gives them the 6-point win. Tennessee just suffocating on defense, as we know. But again, the offense scares me, folks. The offense scares me sometimes. It's just that's why I don't think this is a Final Four team. I just don't. I hate saying that. Could they on a given day beat anybody? Yeah, absolutely. But I think offensively they struggle at times. Tennessee 41% from the field, 27% from beyond the arc. LSU 41% from the field, 25% from beyond the arc. Free throw differential. Tennessee shot 5 more free throws than LSU. Rebounds, Tennessee dominated the boards, 44-28. Big margin of victory, or big margin of defeat in that category. Turnovers weren't terrible for both teams, 11-10. Plus 1 for Tennessee in that one. Points in the paint, 32-20 for Tennessee. And Tennessee's largest lead, again, got up to 15. LSU's largest lead, they only had it once. That was at 3. So again, Tennessee improves to 23-5, 10-5 in conference. LSU drops to 14-4, 3-12. Never thought Tennessee was really going to lose this game, but you never felt real easy either. Felix Okapara, I think, had a big game, 15 points, 7 boards. Pretty good. Sakai Ziegler, 17 points. Chaz Lanier, 14, 3 for 8 from beyond the arc after his he was on fire the other day in College Station. And then Tennessee got to get a little bit more off the bench, but only 6 points combined. 1 from Cade Phillips, 5 from Jordan Gainey. For LSU, just keep chipping away. They already announced Matt McMahon's coming back. Kind of not much. There's a lot to play for to go do some damage in Nashville. You may have to win it, but still 17 points for Victorious Miller, 12 for Cam Carter. It's usually a Cam Carter kind of night. 3 for 10 for the field, 1 for 6. He kind of carries his team. Matt McMahon, they got to invest in this roster. They do. Not just a little bit, a lot if they want to compete in the SEC now. But what's next for Tennessee? We talked about it. Big one. They got a big one at home against Alabama coming up, and they go at Ole Miss in South Carolina. So Tennessee, out of those teams fighting for the 1 seed, a little bit easier path compared to Alabama in Florida in that one. Tennessee would like to go 2-1 for sure. But big game Saturday afternoon in Thompson Bowl. And again, you're fighting for a number 1 seed. Tennessee's got the metrics. They're the metric darling this year, but the eye test doesn't always check out. And again, if Sakai Ziegler's forcing it, that's not when he's at his best. Chaz Lanier's got to be consistent. I don't know. Tennessee's offense scares me at times. And they may go put up 90 to 100 against Alabama. But it still wouldn't change my opinion just off one game. I just think for trying to go win a national championship, win 4 to 6 games to get to a Final Four, win a national championship in the NCAA tournament, I just don't trust this Tennessee offense, no matter what seed they end up getting from this perspective. LSU, what is next for Matt McMahon's crew? They'll finish the season going at Mississippi State, at Kentucky, and A&M. Tough stretch down the road from that one. They will certainly be playing on sad Wednesday, folks. The Bear, baby. The Bear listening in. Peanut Posse with Howdy Doody coaching. I don't see Tennessee ever breaking through to a Final Four. I don't know if I'd say. I don't know if I'd say. I don't think the specific. The team last year almost did. They went to the Elite Eight, ran into Zach Edey in Purdue. They won the regular season of the SEC. Last year was a phenomenal year for Tennessee and Rick Barnes. I just don't think this team, because they're limited offensively and they have cold nights, they can't go play against quality competition for 4 to 6 straight games in the NCAA tournament and play well offensively. I don't think this team has that in them, and that's what scares me. It's not a Rick Barnes thing. Rick Barnes gets more flack from Tennessee fans than anybody I've seen. He really does. My father-in-law, my in-laws, my wife's family, big Tennessee people. Big Tennessee people. If you've ever seen me broadcast live on their porch, you probably see some Smokey doll out there. But he doesn't like Rick Barnes. I don't get it. Unless they may not finish in the top 4 of the SEC this year, but just usually top 4 finishes in the SEC, top 3 seeds in the NCAA tournament. Hey, look, you hadn't gone to a Final Four, but still, man, it's so hard to go get to the Final Four. Rick Barnes receives more flack than anybody unnecessarily. Now, can he get frustrated at times? Sure. Man, he's consistent. And then finally, guys, last game to discuss. Really not a lot in this one. Let's call a spade here. Missouri getting the 101-71 win over South Carolina at home. Not a lot to discuss about this one, except outside Missouri was just totally dominant. But again, I wouldn't say they got South Carolina. I hate saying that, in a good spot, because South Carolina was coming off their first SEC win Saturday against Texas. But they were. It's kind of South Carolina's probably feeling a little fat and happy. I know it's just one win. They're still 1-14, but take the show on the road, tough environment against a relentless Missouri team. How many turnovers does South Carolina end up with? 15. They ain't going to get it done on the road in this league. But Missouri shoots 63% from the field, 57% from beyond the arc, 43% from the field for South Carolina, 8% from three-point range. Wow. Free throw percentage, 84%. South Carolina shot, 13 more free throws than Missouri in Columbia, Missouri, in Como. Man, that's one of the more random stats of the night. Interesting. 29-27 plus 2 for South Carolina in rebounding margin. Like I said, Missouri was plus 8 in turnovers. Points off turnovers, 20 for Missouri. That's a big one as well. Missouri shooting phenomenally. This lead got up to 32 points. Just a dominant win between shooting 57% from beyond the arc and scoring 20 points off turnovers. That's your game right there, folks. For Missouri, Tamar Bates, big night, 11 points, 14 points, Anthony Robinson. Just an overall clean night. No one just went off outside of my guy, Caleb Grill, again, the 6th man of the year, I think. Him or Chaney Johnson off the bench, 22 points, 9 for 11, 4 for 6. That looked like the Caleb Grill from last week against Alabama. Arkansas had him flustered. But overall, productive win, bounce back win. They needed it after taking one on the chin against Arkansas. It's a mature team, improving to 21-7, 10-5 in league play, 4 out of 5 starters in double figures. For South Carolina, 27 points for Colin Murray-Boyles. That's really as far as they go from an NBA talent perspective. It's just a flush it year. Try to finish out the year strong. Try to get another win, get to 2 wins, maybe get a win in the SEC tournament some way, somehow. Just flush this year, and Lamont Paris get back to the drawing board. What's next for Missouri? The last 3 games, one of the more manageable stretches here. At Vanderbilt, at Oklahoma, Kentucky, at home. So at Vanderbilt, Kentucky at home will be tough. At Oklahoma is a very manageable game. I think they should win. For South Carolina, they will close the season out. 4 guaranteed games left. It's kind of sad to talk about that already, but they only got 4 games left. Arkansas at home, Georgia at home, at Tennessee, and whoever they get in the first round of the SEC tournament. That's a tough stretch there. Arkansas will be hungry for a win. Georgia will be hungry for a win at Tennessee. That's the problem. They're playing these 3 teams that all need it from a bubble perspective, or trying to get a number 1 overall, a number 1 seed perspective. Peanut Posse, Rick Barnes like Calipari, not going to adapt to the new landscape. A couple more years and 75% of college basketball teams will average 80 points per. I know, I'll agree with that. I mean, I've heard rumors Rick Barnes is going to hang it up at the end of this year, retire. Like, yeah, I mean, I've had discussions with people. Who does Tennessee go after then? Chris Beard? I mean, that'd be one of my offers. Will Wade? I mean, what's Danny White do? So, I mean, I've heard Rick Barnes is open to potentially hanging it up after this. So this will be interesting. No, I don't disagree with you there. Peanut positive from that perspective there. But let's go look at the SEC standings real fast. Let me share the screen. Nope, I don't know why it's doing this. One sec. There we go. All right, folks, let's look at it. Ending the night on Tuesday night again. We got 3 matchups tomorrow. Auburn sitting in sole possession, up 2 games, 13-1 in league play. Alabama with Florida's loss and Bama's win tonight is in sole possession of second place at 11-3. Florida sits at 11-4 by themselves. Tennessee 10-5, Texas A&M 9-5, Missouri 9-5, Ole Miss 8-6, Kentucky and Mississippi State 7-7. Vanderbilt 6-8, Arkansas 5-9, along with Texas sitting at 5-9, Georgia 5-10, Oklahoma 4-10, LSU 3-12, and South Carolina sitting at 1-13. So interesting spots here. The tiebreaker number 2 broke tonight with Florida not being able to hold on late after coming back from 26 tonight in Athens. Bama sits in sole possession, but these teams play a week. They play next week, midweek. So in Tuscaloosa, so that'll be a big breaker, tiebreaker potentially as well. Who do you still like finishing in the top 4 seed here? I mean, I still think it's a battle between Auburn. You feel pretty good about. I think it's Auburn, Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, A&M, and Missouri is really, I think, who's fighting for these last 4 spots. Man, it's 6 teams. Like I mentioned the other day, I think 4 out of those 6 will be obviously the top 4 seed. 2 teams will get left behind there. I don't know. Missouri's got a pretty decent stretch coming up. It'll be interesting. That A&M Florida game this weekend will be big. Same with Bama, Alabama. They're all getting big here down the stretch. I mean, they really are. They're all getting big here down the stretch. But those are the kind of the 6 teams, I think, fighting for that double bye. Nashville getting a top 4 seed. Obviously, you finish in the top 4 of the SEC this year, the best college basketball conference historically. That's going to get you a high seed in the NCAA tournament. I mean, let's call a spade from that perspective. And then let's just quickly glance over the schedule for tomorrow in the SEC. We got Auburn and Ole Miss tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Auburn currently a 12.5-point favorite, opening up over under 153.5. Vanderbilt at Texas A&M, 7 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. A&M favored by 7.5 at Reed Arena, 146.5. The over under. Kentucky at Oklahoma. Kentucky favored by 2.5. Over under 162.5. Jackson Robinson, Lamont Butler listed as probable. Just heads up for Kentucky there. And then Texas at Arkansas, I think, in probably the biggest game of the night. 2 bubble teams fighting for those spots in the SEC to get into the NCAA tournament. Texas at Arkansas, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Arkansas opens up as a 4.5-point favorite, over under 147.5, folks. So a good lineup tomorrow. We got 4 games. Yep, 4 games tomorrow. We had 4 today. All 8 teams in action in midweek. So we didn't have any midweek buys heading into this one, guys. But before we get out of here, guys, got to remind you, when the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. So even if you missed the first few minutes of the game or want to bet on the fourth quarter comeback, you can make your picks from the first whistle until the final buzzer. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at bigger payout. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. New FanDuel customers get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/SECU to join today. That's FanDuel.com/SECU for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and plus and present in select states. For Kansas, an affiliation with the Kansas Star Casino, or 18 and present in D.C. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as a non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. Call 1-888 789-777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York. Folks, oh, sorry. My guy, yeah, he is right. Let's see if it's... Yeah, hold on. I want to go show you all the standings. My guy, B. Kells. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you. I knew it was only 5 losses, but that's sometimes the problem with ESPN. So let's roll through it again. Sorry about that, folks. Just want to make sure we're getting the right standings in here. I just re-entered it for refresher. So, yeah, he's right. So, Bama 12-3. Yeah, Missouri 10-5. So that's what it is. So everything's still the same, but that's the updated one. Auburn sitting in first place, 13-1. Alabama 12-3. Sole place of second place with Florida losing tonight. Florida drops to 11-4. Tennessee and Missouri tied at 10-5. Texas A&M 9-5. Ole Miss 8-6. Kentucky 7-7. Mississippi State drops to 7-8. Vanderbilt 6-8. Arkansas 5-9 along with Texas. That's why tomorrow's game's big, folks. It's almost a loser leave town game, and it's almost a loser leave week for Texas and Rodney Terry. I mean, they go to Arkansas, and then they host Georgia. So, I mean, 2 teams you're fighting to go get NCAA tournament bids with. It's do or die for Texas, and let's be honest, I think Rodney Terry. Then you got Georgia sitting at 5-10, Oklahoma 4-10, LSU 3-12, and South Carolina 1-14. So I just wanted to reshare that before we get out of here. Appreciate our guy B. Kells for letting us know. Peanut Posse, do you think the SEC tourney champ will be an unexpected team because it's meaningless as far as seeding is concerned? I'm with you. That's interesting. But, I mean, who would be kind of random? This whole league's kind of good. I'm with you, though. It wouldn't shock me if one of these top 4 seeds doesn't win it. Because, I mean, again, you don't want to go exhaust yourself. I'm with you. Posse. I wouldn't go exert myself. You hear teams, we want to go win the tournament. And there is something to be said for winning the SEC tournament. You hang a banner, yeah. For whatever people say, Auburn still gets to hang that. That's cool. They won it last year. Minute restrictions. I don't know. I thought about it one time. I was talking to a buddy. Like, maybe this year is the year. You know what? Just like Alabama, hypothetically, you know what? We need to go make a run late. And I don't think NATO's would do this, but this is what some teams could do. Hey, you're up 15. A team cuts it to 8 in the under 4-minute timeout. You may not bring a player that you normally would in a regular season game, or certainly the NCAA tournament when you're win or go home off the bench. You may let some of your young guys try to figure it out. Because it's like you said, if we lose, who cares? Let's go sit on and get off on the couch and get off our feet for about 2 days. That can help some teams. And then I think it may be something like that. Or, hey, if it's getting out of hand early, yeah, let's get you out of the game. I think, again, you don't see that with a lot of teams now. But I think in the SEC tournament, you would see it this year. It will be interesting, the minute restrictions. And you're right, with Auburn losing it last year and then Alabama losing in the first round and going on a big run. But, guys, I appreciate you joining us on this Tuesday night reaction. Again, we'll be back tomorrow night, guys. But remember, this reaction is brought to you by our title sponsor, FANDUEL. Visit FANDUEL.com/SECU to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet, guys. But for Dave Shumate, I appreciate you joining me. I will see y'all tomorrow night.